The shift didn't announce itself loudly. There was no explosion, no sudden confrontation that warned people something was about to break. It arrived quietly, almost invisibly, wrapped in a normal conversation. Tamar spoke calmly, casually even. No raised voice, no emotional plea. Just a few carefully chosen words about a night most people were never supposed to know existed. And yet, the instant those words left her mouth, something changed. The atmosphere tightened. The air felt heavier. Anyone paying attention could feel it. Tamar didn't accuse. She didn't dramatize. She simply mentioned a memory one she had carried in silence for years. But silence, once broken, has a way of echoing far louder than shouting ever could. Within minutes, screens lit up everywhere. Group chats buzzed. Notifications stacked. Clips were cut, trimmed, stripped of nuance, and flung across platforms at lightning speed. The internet didn't pause to ask questions. It didn't wait for clarity. It did what it always does. It chose sides. Tamar's name shot into trending spaces alongside disbelief, speculation, and shock. People weren't debating what she said. They were debating what it meant. Every pause in her voice, every expression on her face, every past moment of vulnerability was dragged back into the spotlight and re-examined. Context disappeared. Sensationalism took over. But what truly stunned everyone wasn't Tamar speaking. It was how quickly Mendeecees reacted and how aggressive that reaction was. Instead of measured denial or silence, Mendeecees came out swinging. His response wasn't calm or controlled. It was sharp, forceful, and deeply personal. To observers, it didn't feel like a man clearing his name. It felt like someone trying to regain control before it slipped completely out of his hands. The reaction didn't slow the story down. It accelerated it. People watching closely felt it immediately. This wasn't damage control, which panic masked as authority. The kind of response that doesn't extinguish rumors, but feeds them. The more Mendeecees pushed back, the louder Tamar's original words became, and that's when the questions started forming in people's minds. Quietly at first, then louder with each passing hour. Why did this hit such a nerve? Because if the story truly meant nothing, why respond like everything was at stake? It became clear very quickly that this wasn't about correcting the record. It was about controlling the narrative. And once that realization settled in, the entire situation shifted to understand why Tamar's words carried so much weight. You have to understand her history. For years, Tamar had lived under a microscope. Every relationship, every disagreement, every emotional reaction was dissected publicly. Her feelings were rarely treated as real experiences. Instead, they were repackaged as entertainment, drama, content. Over time, Tamar learned a painful lesson. Honesty came with consequences. Speaking openly meant being misunderstood, doubted, or labeled unstable. But silence came with its own cost, a quiet erosion of self. That tension shaped her. It taught her caution. It taught her restraint. It taught her how to carry memories without sharing them, how to hold truths without validation. Mendeecees, on the other hand, built a public image rooted in strength, composure, and authority. He was associated with control of situations, of perception, of how stories involving him were handled. Respect in his world wasn't requested. It was expected. So when Tamar spoke about him without permission, without warning, and without accusation, it disrupted something fundamental. Introduced a version of events he didn't author. Their connection had never been part of public lore. That secrecy made Tamar's words even more powerful. They came from a space people didn't realize existed. She wasn't exposing a scandal. She was recalling a memory, and that mattered. She didn't describe it like gossip. She didn't present it as a revelation. She spoke the way people do when they finally acknowledge something they've held quietly for too long. Those close to Tamar later said she never intended for the moment to explode. She had been reflecting on the weight of silence, on how some truths hurt more when buried. Speaking wasn't about exposing Mendeecees, it was about reclaiming her own narrative. But once words enter the public sphere, they stop belonging to the speaker alone. For Mendeecees, this wasn't just about reputation. It was about losing control of the story. Someone else had introduced context he didn't approve. And when silence is mistaken for consent, the reaction is often extreme. Tamar had long spoken about the frustration of being dismissed. Simply because she was emotionally open, her experiences were often minimized as exaggeration. This time, she didn't over-explain, she didn't justify herself. She simply stated a fact and allowed it to exist. That was new, and it was threatening. Mendeecees responded with urgency, because in his world, public moments require immediate dominance. Calm invites doubt, silence invites speculation. Control demands speed. What neither of them anticipated was how emotionally the public would respond. Tamar's past made people sensitive to the possibility that she was being punished for speaking again. Mendeecees' tone made people uncomfortable. If there was nothing to hide, why attack so hard? The story stopped being about one night and became about something larger. Who gets to tell the story? And who is punished for doing so? When Mendeecees refused to let Tamar's words stand on their own, the conflict became unavoidable. His response grew sharper, more dismissive, more personal. It felt less like clarification and more like intimidation, almost. Instantly, Tamar was pushed into a familiar role. The public demanded proof, timelines, details. Her memory was treated like evidence that needed validation. The conversation shifted from truth to permission. Mendeecees doubled down. He questioned her credibility, her motives, her character. To many, it sounded less like denial and more like preemptive discrediting. And with every escalation, Tamar's original statement gained strength. When she finally spoke again, she did so calmly. No insults, no retaliation. She stated plainly that she had no reason to lie about something she had kept private for years. Speaking wasn't about shame, which is about honesty. That distinction mattered, and slowly the tide began to turn. People stopped interrogating Tamar and started questioning Mendeecees. Why the extreme reaction? Why attack instead of clarify? Why escalate instead of diffuse? Old patterns resurfaced. People recognized how often women are punished, not for lying, but for speaking. Tamar's history was re-examined not as drama, but as endurance. Then came the first major twist. A source revealed that the night Tamar mentioned hadn't ended cleanly or casually. There had been continued communication afterward, conversations that suggested significance. The information didn't explode, spread quietly, reshaping perception. Suddenly, Mendeecees' response looked less like outrage and more like damage control. Tamar then hinted that she had stayed silent out of respect, not fear. That she chose not to share details to avoid spectacle. Restraint in moments like this reads as credibility. Mendeecees reacted by dismissing her as attention-seeking. But by then, the audience was listening differently. The contrast between her composure and his aggression created doubt. The realization hit hard. This wasn't about disproving Tamar, it was about punishing her for speaking. As the pressure increased, the story expanded. Fake screenshots circulated. Messages appeared, but inconsistencies raised red flags. Instead of clarity, manipulation became visible. A rival voice entered quietly, reminding people that this wasn't the first time Mendeecees reacted aggressively when privacy was threatened. The statement wasn't loud, but it landed. Meanwhile, Tamar remained still. No leaks, no campaigns. Just calm repetition of one truth. Her experience was her own. That calm wasn't weakness. It was discipline. The second major twist emerged when someone from Tamar's past confirmed that she had struggled privately with whether to speak at all. Silence had been a choice. One made to avoid exactly this chaos. That confirmation shifted everything. If Tamar had stayed quiet out of consideration, then the attack against her looked cruel by comparison. The question changed again. Was this about denying the night or ensuring she never spoke about it again? As the fallout settled, the noise softened, but the weight increased. The story stopped feeling like gossip and started feeling like reckoning. Privately, Tamar carried the emotional toll. Calm doesn't erase impact. Being attacked reopened wounds. She had spent years healing. Support arrived, so did pressure to stay silent for her own good. Tamar recognized that language. Was familiar. Mendeecees' position weakened, not through new statements, but through absence. Silence without clarity became louder than denial. A private confrontation reportedly occurred. When asked why she wouldn't let it go, Tamar answered quietly, "Letting it go is how I ended up here." That moment lingered. Public opinion shifted steadily. The story became symbolic. Not because Tamar wanted it to, but because people recognized themselves in it then. Just as things quieted, the final twist surfaced. Someone close confirmed Tamar hadn't spoken impulsively. She had weighed the cost. Her calm was protection. Another detail followed. Conversations after the night had existed. Ordinary ones, mutual ones. Context emerged, and context is dangerous when denial depends on erasure. The pressure shifted completely. This was no longer about whether Tamar should have spoken. It was about why force was used when silence failed. Now, Tamar stands at a crossroads. She can let the story fade into half-truths, or she can speak again factually, calmly knowing it would change. Everything Mendeecees remains silent. That silence no longer feels confident. It feels like waiting, because once the next truth enters the public space, there will be no reframing, no retreat. The story pauses here not because it's over, but because silence and truth can no longer coexist. Now the question belongs to everyone watching. What would you do?